everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I was going to start today with John Brennan, and so I think I'll save that for hour two. The premise being, is John Brennan a Russian plant, an old Soviet plant? I mean, I'm going to pretend I'm on MSNBC or CNN. Is he a Russian plant? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to really lay it out, at least ask questions, in the next hour. I'm not saying he is. I'm wondering. You know, as if I'm Jake Tapper. Or the conga line of Obama appointees and so forth who are going out there accusing Donald Trump of, well, the Russians must have something on him. Otherwise, why would he be behaving this way? Well, do the Russians have something on Mr. Brennan? Why would he be behaving the way he behaves? And why didn't he do anything to stop the Russians when he was director of the CIA? So we'll get into that. But before we do, there's something that's been bouncing around the internet, and I don't know how these things get started on the internet. I guess they're posted and pushed and then tweeted and Facebooked and all over the place. They bounce around, and that is this situation involving this actor, Mark Duplass, who I don't even know. Is it Duplass? I don't know. He's a liberal, apparently. And so he suggests that his friends follow Ben Shapiro, a conservative. And his liberal followers freaked out, attacked him. He dropped his post and then apologized. And I'm saying, what is all the hubbub about here? I mean, we conservatives, we understand this, don't we? We understand the totalitarian mindset of the left. We talk about it all the time. We've been talking about it for years. Why is this specific instance so shocking when it goes on every day and has gone on every day for years? In fact, for decades. To not understand this is not to understand progressivism and the totalitarian mindset that we talk about every single day. They don't support freedom of speech. They don't support civil society. They tell you this every day. They embrace this statism, this utopianism. And so the individual has to be beaten to a pulp. Anybody with an independent thought or contrary thought has to be smeared. Now, I went back and I looked at my book, Emeritopia, out in 2012. Utopianism substitutes glorious predictions and unachievable promises for knowledge, science, and reason, while laying claim to them all. Yet there's nothing new in deception disguised as hope, and nothing original in abstraction framed as progress. And especially threatened are the industrious, independent, and successful. For they demonstrate what is actually possible under current societal conditions: achievement, happiness, fulfillment, thereby contradicting and endangering the utopian campaign against what was or is. They must either be co-opted and turned into useful contributors to or advocates for the state, or neutralized through sabotage or other means. Indeed, the individual's contribution to society must be downplayed, dismissed, or denounced, unless the contribution is directed by the state and involves self-sacrifice for the utopian cause. In other words, the true hardcore statist progressives, they're not interested in dialogue. They're interested in devouring everybody and controlling the discussion, such as it is. Utopianism also attempts to shape and dominate the individual by doing two things at once. It strips the individual of his uniqueness, making him indistinguishable from the multitudes that form what is commonly referred to as the masses, but it simultaneously assigns him a group identity based on race, ethnicity, age, gender, income, and I might say, belief system. To highlight differences within the masses. It then exacerbates old rivalries and disputes or it incites new ones.
Make experience your business.
This way it can speak to the well-being of the people. Like the Democrats have a new campaign slogan,
the CIA under Barack Obama.
For the people,
now he's a cable news
or we the people,
paid analyst for MSNBC.
As a whole, while dividing them against themselves, thereby stampeding them in one direction or another as necessary to collapse the existing society or rule over the new one. Some of us have lived long enough and have experienced this, whether it's on social media or old-time media. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Now, utopianism also finds a receptive audience among the society's disenchanted, disaffected, dissatisfied, and maladjusted, who are unwilling or unable to assume responsibility for their own real or perceived conditions, but instead blame their surroundings, the system, and others. Like we, conservatives. They are lured by the false hopes and promises of utopian transformation and the criticisms of the existing society, to which their connection is tentative or non-existent. Improving the malcontent's lot becomes linked to the utopian cause. Moreover, disparaging and diminishing the successful and accomplished becomes an essential tactic. No one should be better than anyone else, regardless of the merits or value of his contributions. So by exploiting human frailties, frustrations, jealousies, and inequities, a sense of meaning and self-worth is created in the malcontent's otherwise unhappy and directionless life. Simply put, equality in misery, that is, equality of result or conformity, is advanced as a just, fair, and virtuous undertaking. I repeat, equality in mystery, that is, equality of result or conformity, is advanced as a just, fair, and virtuous undertaking. They demand uniformity and conformity. It's not a matter of, hey guys, you should talk to Shapiro, you should talk to this one, they don't want to talk to anybody who doesn't agree with them. Oh, there's a handful. But there's a handful. Then we move on to rediscovering Americanism and the tyranny of progressivism. And this is why I'm kind of shocked that people are surprised by this. Fundamentally, they do not understand progressivism. Progressivism is a form of tyranny. I talk about it all the time with a totalitarian mindset. Look at this. They're attacking me. Well, of course they're attacking you. And they've attacked me, and they attack anybody else who dares to stand up and speak to liberty. True liberty. Now, throughout the discussion of progressivism, as I point out in Rediscovering Americanism, from Rousseau, Hegel, Marx, to Crowley, Roosevelt, Wilson, Dewey, and Weil, the core themes have evolved around defining individual worth, salvation, and liberation through the lenses of the collective, scientifically managed by and through a centralized, unified government construct, often referred to or compared to a living organism or body, said to represent the general will, general welfare, national interests, and working masses, that is, the proletariat. You cannot have an individual exercising their free will or independent thought. They interfere with the perfection of the state. This is why books are important. This is why history is important. This is why philosophy is important. I don't understand why the actor did that. I understand it completely, and I bet most of you do too. That actor came under attack because he stepped out. That's why. It's about groupthink. It's about uniformity. It's about conformity. That's what progressivism is all about. They can talk about we the people all they want. What they really mean is the state. The state. In his 1958 inaugural lecture on the two concepts of liberty, negative and positive liberty, Isaiah Berlin, brilliant man, explained that studies about politics and philosophy and academia spring from and thrive on discord. Some may question this on the ground that even in a society of saintly anarchists, where no conflicts about ultimate purposes can take place, Political problems, for example, constitutional legislative issues, might still arise. But this objection rests on a mistake. Where ends are agreed, the only questions left are those of means. And these are not political, but technical. That is to say, capable of being settled by experts or machines, like arguments between engineers or doctors. That is why those who put their faith in some immense, world-transforming phenomenon, like the final triumph of reason or the proletarian revolution, must believe that all political and moral problems can thereby be turned into technological ones. And I think this is the mistake that some of our colleagues are making when they talk about why won't they engage us in free and honest and open debate? Well, there's a few people who will, but they, the activists and their leaders, they have no intention of engaging. Their intention is defeating, victory. That's the history of progressivism. It's not about debate and engagement. It's about the iron fist. That is the meaning of Engels' famous phrase, paraphrasing St. Simon, about replacing the government of persons by the administration of things. And the Marxist prophecies about the withering away of the state and the beginning of the true history of humanity. This outlook is called utopian by those for whom speculation about this condition of perfect social harmony is the play of idle fancy. Exactly. One more point. Notably, Berlin describes the mindset of modern progressives and their philosophical patrons, declaring that in exercising the positive freedom idea to be all you want to be, which requires the government to be all it wants to be. He says the danger is that, quote, the real self may be conceived as something wider than the individual, as the term is normally understood, as a social whole, of which the individual is an element or aspect, a tribe, a race, a church, a state, the great society of the living and the dead and the yet unborn. This, in other words, somebody defines individuality as imposing their personal, individual outlook on life, their own mindset, on the rest of society, or the group that they're in. This entity is then identified as being the true self. You hear Obama do this all the time, which by imposing its collective or organic single will upon its recalcitrant members achieve its own and therefore their higher freedom. The perils of using organic metaphors, general will of the people, general welfare of the people, etc., to justify the coercion of some men by others in order to raise them to a higher level of freedom have often been pointed out. But what gives such plausibility as it has to this kind of language is that we recognize that it is possible and at times justifiable to coerce men in the name of some goal, which they would, if they were more enlightened themselves, pursue. He's not saying do it. He's saying this is the put down. This is the mastermind. Sure, I believe in individuality. If everybody does what I say, if everybody believes what I believe, and if people who disagree with me are put down. That's why the actor came under attack for suggesting that his liberal followers dare to follow somebody else. We deal with it in talk radio every single day. We deal with it in social media on the internet every single day. It's the mob of the left with a totalitarian mindset. Now, some people seek engagement. I don't. I seek to expose them and to roll them. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Probably boring everybody to death, but let me just continue briefly on this. Rodney King said, "Why can't we all get along?" Is this what we're reduced to? Why can't we all get along? This isn't a way forward. It's not a serious point. Lots of people don't get along. I don't know of any society where people always got along. That's not the issue. Why can't people get along? The issue is that people won't get along, and some people will get along. The issue is retaining and strengthening the civil society. So people who disagree can disagree in a civil way. That doesn't mean they're going to be friendly. That doesn't mean they're going to debate in a friendly way. But it means you have a society in which you're not going to be killed for your beliefs, tortured for your beliefs, imprisoned for your beliefs. There can be robust, aggressive debate. It's not about why we can't all get along. And and one of the great dangers the civil society faces is from the statist progressive movement. Because they do not believe in a civil society. They believe in the fundamental transformation of the society. Marx wrote about it. He even believed in the violent fundamental transformation of society. And others have written about the slow but steady fundamental transformation of society. Whether it's an aggressive form or a slower form, a camouflaged form, that's what we're living through. These are simply examples, little tiny examples of what's taking place throughout our culture, throughout our society, throughout our country. We are on defense. And I do not think it advances the argument or strengthens the civil society to apply some sort of moral equivalency to progressivism and constitutionalism or conservatism or liberty. When one is a force for bleakness and the other is the force of enlightenment. Now, I know that this isn't the way forward in some circles, but it's the only way forward. There is no other way. It's based on thousands of years of knowledge. Progressivism is just the recent progeny of this form of tyranny. Hope I helped. We'll be right back.
These days, you can do just about anything online and on demand. It certainly makes our lives easier, right? Well, now you can even get postage on demand